So how big, exactly, is this bomb? Helldivers 2 is a game with an abundance of flashy, explosive, and arguably war crime-ridden ways to destroy your enemies. However, out of all the methodologies of spreading democracy across the galaxy, my favorite is the ever-classic and trustworthy thermonuclear bomb. This is a game with large and deadly explosions, but none come even close to the size and sheer cool factor of seeing that nuke explode at the end of a mission. This did make me wonder. We have stats for most of the other weapons in the game. Why not the nuke? How powerful was this bomb? Are we talking a few kilotons, a few megatons, gigatons? Well, no, not gigatons, but you see where I'm going with this. I first attempted to answer this question by exploring the silo in-game. Unfortunately, this did not provide a satisfactory answer, meaning I had to do things the hard way. The first thing I needed to establish was how far away the explosion actually was. That way we'd be able to get an approximate size of the mushroom cloud. Additionally, knowing how far away the explosion was would allow me to analyze the pressure from the blast more accurately. After comparing 4 separate ICBM missions, the time it took between when the explosion occurred and our characters got hit with the blast was exactly 5.7333 repeating seconds. For the purposes of math, we used 5.734 seconds. This number was consistent on all missions except for one where it came up with 5.735, but that could have been because of a rounding error or just when my frame capture device decided to start and stop. Either way, I don't think it's far enough off to really matter. Next, I needed to figure out the speed of a nuclear blast wave. This proved to be a lot harder than you would expect, but after examining several websites, published journals, and university publications, I found that the initial speed of a nuclear shockwave can vary extremely heavily based on factors such as yield of the bomb, weather, altitude of detonation, and many other factors. This isn't really helpful, but I was able to find an Army Medical Corps publication from 2001 that stated the blast wave from an explosion of this approximate scale would travel about 2,000 meters per second, but would decrease with distance. Along with this decrease in speed, there would also be a measurable decrease in atmospheric pressure at any given point along the blast wave's route. While this itself wasn't an exact answer for the speed of the blast, it did mean that we could correlate the speed with the relative atmospheric pressure. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, this was actually easier to do than I initially thought it would be. This was because, we know, in the game the nuke is not only survivable, it doesn't even damage our players. This fact is very important because we know that explosives in the game can damage, knock over, or even kill our players. It means that by the time the nuclear blast gets to our character, it is no longer powerful enough to cause any immediate harm. This information would also allow us to get a very rough estimate of both blast wave speeds and wind speeds. By knowing that we aren't even knocked over by the explosion, we can compare the potential pressure from other explosives in the game to understand what kinds of pressure our characters are experiencing. After doing some testing with a few of the in-game explosives and comparing them to their closest real-world counterparts, I was able to determine that our characters can remain standing for any blast under approximately 2.3 psi of overpressure. In this case, overpressure just means the force of the blast over regular atmospheric pressure. I will also note that there was a very fine line during this testing between being able to stay standing and pulling a team rocket. What research showed me is that this nuclear blast, by the time it got to us, had to have had wind speeds at or below 78 miles per hour and a relative PSI of 2.3 or lower. For the purposes of calculating the speed of the blast wave, we assumed a PSI of 2 and a wind speed of 70. This was because the research available to us included both of these exact numbers in their measurements, allowing us to get a more precise guess. After comparing these two data points, in the initial starting speed of approximately 2,000 meters per second, we were able to get a rough distance between the player and the bomb, albeit this was with the help of a lot of estimation. In the end, I came up with a distance of 1.86 kilometers. Now that I had an approximate distance, I could estimate the size of the mushroom cloud. I found a US government publication titled The Effects of Nuclear Weapons, and it said that it takes around 10 minutes for a mushroom cloud to reach its peak. However, in the game, the effects of the bomb tend to disappear far faster than that, so I just measured it at around 15 seconds, given that's about when the animation stops updating. To measure the height of the cloud, we only needed our character's height and the distance. For our height, I assumed a player height of 5'6", the average worldwide male height, and added 4 inches for the helmet and boots, bringing us to a total of 5'10". Using trigonometry, I was able to assign a rough height of 0.88 miles to the mushroom cloud after 15 seconds. I then adjusted the height based on the extra 9+ minutes it would have had to grow, using an assumed growth rate from an MIT research paper on the impact of nuclear weapons and nuclear blasts. This brought the total height to a rather disappointing 2.2 miles. For comparison, the bomb at Hiroshima in 1945 had a mushroom cloud that reached about 60,000 feet, or over 11 miles in the air, and that bomb only had a yield of 15 kilotons. So now we had the following information. We had the estimated distance from the bomb, the estimated height of the mushroom cloud, and the maximum amount of pressure that our characters could be experiencing. From all this, we could begin to answer our original question. Looking on Nuclear Secrecy's nuke map, we find the pressure information for a blast at different yields and distances. From this, we can easily make the determination that the nuke's yield is equivalent to somewhere between 1 and 3 kilotons of TNT. Here are both of those yields overlaid on top of Los Angeles just for scale. Given the totality of all of the evidence, I can say with a sense of completely unwarranted certainty that the nuclear bomb used by Super Earth in Helldivers 2 is just a hair over 2.4 kilotons in yield. This result did surprise me, as I was expecting it to be much, much larger. I do suppose this makes sense though, given that the goal is to liberate these planets rather than glass them entirely. Still, I can't say that I'm not at least a little bit disappointed. Either way, it looks very, very cool in the game and makes for a really fun way to end a mission. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this type of analysis or would like to see more of this kind of content, please let me know in the comments. This video was a first for me and took a lot longer than usual to make. Also, if you do find yourself enjoying my content, why not hit subscribe? It's free and keeps my fiance from beating me. Also, for those of you who are curious, I've included all of my sources down in the description below if you want to take a look for yourself. If you end up coming up with a different answer than I did, please let me know. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.